The first time he heard the sound, he thought it was the tap. A soft, broken sound behind the bathroom door. Elliot stood in the hallway of their Lekki apartment, adjusting his tie in the mirror near the wall. It was almost midnight. He had just returned from another long meeting on Victoria Island. The lights were off in the living room. The television screen reflected his tired face. Then he heard it again. A muffled sob. Very low. Almost hidden. He paused. The bathroom light was on. The door was locked. "Harriet," he called gently. No answer. He stepped closer. The sob turned into a shaky breath, like someone trying very hard not to cry. He frowned. "Harriet, are you okay?" Silence. Then the tap came on suddenly. Water rushed into the sink. And the crying stopped. Elliot stared at the door for a long moment. He shook his head. Maybe she was just tired. Maybe it was nothing. He went back to the bedroom, lay down, and checked his phone. Emails. Messages. Notifications. By the time Harriet came out of the bathroom 20 minutes later, her face was calm. Too calm. She smiled at him. "I'm fine," she said softly. And he believed her. But what Elliot did not know was that this was not the first night Harriet had cried behind that locked bathroom door. And it would not be the last. 6 months earlier, everything looked perfect. They had moved into the new apartment in Lagos with excitement. The building had a clean lobby, smooth marble floors, and a small balcony that overlooked the busy road. From there, they could see cars moving like tiny toys at night. Harriet loved the balcony. She would stand there in the evenings and watch the city lights. Elliot loved his new promotion. He worked at a large financial firm in Victoria Island. His hours became longer. His voice became sharper. His phone never stopped ringing. "Just a few more months," he would say. "Once I secure this position fully, things will calm down." Harriet nodded each time. She always nodded. In the beginning, they still laughed together. They still cooked dinner on Sundays. They still visited friends in Ikoyi. But slowly things changed. Elliot began coming home later. Sometimes he would not eat the food Harriet prepared. He would say he had already eaten with clients. Sometimes he would answer calls during dinner. Sometimes he would forget conversations they had earlier in the week. Harriet noticed. But she did not complain. One evening, Harriet stood in the kitchen, stirring soup slowly. "Elliot," she said quietly, "do you think we could spend more time together next week?" He did not look up from his laptop. "Next week is impossible," he replied. "We have audits coming up." She swallowed. "Maybe the week after?" He sighed, still typing. "Harriet, I'm doing this for us." "For us." She nodded again. But that night, after he slept, she went into the bathroom and locked the door. That was the first time. Weeks passed. Harriet stopped asking for time. She stopped waiting at the dining table. She started eating earlier. Elliot noticed the changes, but he explained them away in his mind. She is adjusting. She understands. She is strong. One Saturday afternoon, Elliot came home earlier than usual. He expected Harriet to be excited. Instead, he found her sitting quietly on the balcony, staring at nothing. "Why are you sitting in the heat?" he asked lightly. She looked up and smiled. "I just needed some air." He sat beside her for a moment, scrolling through his phone. She opened her mouth to speak. Then she closed it. A car horn sounded loudly from the road below. Elliot stood up. "I have to jump on a quick call," he said. And he went inside. Harriet remained on the balcony. Her hands were shaking. That night, she locked herself in the bathroom again. But this time, she did not cry quietly. She pressed a towel against her mouth to stop the sound. Her shoulders shook. She stared at herself in the mirror. "Pull yourself together," she whispered. When she came out, Elliot was asleep. Back in the present, Elliot turned in bed. He could not sleep. Something about the sound he heard earlier stayed in his mind. He looked at Harriet's back as she lay facing the wall. Her body looked small. Smaller than before. He reached out to touch her shoulder. She stiffened slightly. Just for a second. But he felt it. "Are you sure you're okay?" he asked softly. She did not turn around. "I'm fine, Elliot." Her voice sounded steady. Too steady. Elliot closed his eyes. He chose to believe her again. But inside the bathroom cabinet, hidden behind folded towels, was something Elliot had not seen. A small white envelope. And inside that envelope was a letter Harriet had written 3 days ago. A letter she was planning to give him. A letter that would change everything. And tomorrow, she had decided she would finally let him read it. The next morning, Elliot left for work without noticing the envelope was no longer in the bathroom cabinet. Harriet had taken it out at dawn. She sat at the small dining table, holding the letter in her hands. The sun had already risen over Lekki. The city was waking up. Cars were moving. Generators were humming in nearby buildings. Her tea had gone cold. She read the letter again. Her handwriting was neat but shaky in some places. She had written about the silence in the house. About eating alone. About talking to walls. About feeling invisible. She had written one sentence 3 times before finally leaving it the way it was. "I feel like I am disappearing, and you do not even see it." Her fingers tightened around the paper. She heard Elliot's voice in her mind. "I'm doing this for us. For us." She folded the letter carefully and placed it in her handbag. Today, she told herself. Today, he will know. At his office in Victoria Island, Elliot was restless. The sound from the previous night kept replaying in his head. The muffled sob. The sudden rush of water. He tried to focus on spreadsheets and client calls, but his thoughts drifted. He remembered how Harriet had stiffened when he touched her shoulder. It was small. But it was not normal. At lunchtime, his colleague Marcus leaned back in his chair. "You look distracted," Marcus said. "I'm fine," Elliot replied quickly. Marcus studied him. "Work is not everything, you know." Elliot gave a small laugh. "That's easy for you to say." Marcus shrugged. "I nearly lost my marriage 2 years ago because I kept saying, just a few more months. Be careful." Elliot's smile faded. "Lost my marriage." The words settled heavily in his chest. He checked his phone. No message from Harriet. He felt a strange urge to call her. But then his phone rang first. Another client. Another meeting. Another promise to fix something urgent. By the time he looked up, it was already past 8 p.m. Back at home, Harriet had changed into a simple blue dress. She wanted to look calm. She wanted to look steady. Not broken. She had prepared dinner, but she did not set the table this time. Instead, she sat on the sofa, the letter beside her. Her mind was racing. What if he laughs? What if he says I am overreacting? What if he says he cannot change? She stood up and walked to the bathroom. She closed the door but did not lock it this time. She looked at her reflection. Her eyes looked tired. She touched her cheeks gently. "I cannot keep crying in here," she whispered. The sound of the front door opening made her heart jump. He was home. She walked out slowly. Elliot looked surprised to see her waiting in the living room. "Hey," he said. "You're still awake?" She nodded. "We need to talk." The words hung in the air. Elliot froze. Her voice was calm. Too calm. He placed his bag down slowly. "Is something wrong?" She looked at him for a long moment. Then she handed him the envelope. "What is this?" he asked. "Please just read it." He hesitated. Then he opened it. The room felt very quiet. He began reading. The first few lines made him frown. Then his jaw tightened. Then his breathing changed. He read about the nights in the bathroom. He read about the loneliness. He read about how she sometimes stood on the balcony and imagined what it would be like to leave without making a sound. His hands trembled slightly. "What is this supposed to mean?" he asked, his voice low. "It means I am not okay, Elliot," she replied softly. He looked up sharply. "You should have told me." "I tried." "When?" She stared at him. Every time I asked you to spend time with me. He felt something twist inside him. That doesn't mean. She cut him off gently. I cry almost every night in that bathroom. The words hit him hard. He blinked. What? She swallowed. I lock the door because I do not want you to hear me. I turn on the tap so you think it is just water. The image flashed in his mind. The sound. The tap. The sob. His stomach dropped. You are exaggerating, he said weakly. She shook her head. I am tired of pretending I am strong all the time. He felt anger rise suddenly. Not at her. At himself. But it came out wrong. So what are you saying? That I'm a bad husband? Her eyes filled with tears. I am saying I feel alone in my own marriage. Silence fell between them. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Elliot looked down at the letter again. His eyes caught the last paragraph. If nothing changes, I do not know how much longer I can stay like this. His heart began to pound. Stay, he repeated slowly. Harriet did not answer. He looked up at her. Are you planning to leave? Her lips trembled. I do not want to, but I cannot keep living like I do not exist. Elliot stepped back as if the floor had shifted under him. Leave? He opened his mouth to speak. But at that exact moment, Harriet's phone rang loudly on the table. Both of them turned to look at it. The caller ID displayed a name Elliot had never seen before. Dr. Whitmore. Elliot's eyes narrowed. Who is that? He asked slowly. Harriet hesitated. The phone kept ringing. Her face turned pale. And then, she answered the call. Hello, she said softly. Elliot could only hear her side of the conversation. Yes, I understand. Pause. No, he doesn't know yet. Elliot's heart slammed against his chest. Doesn't know what? Harriet closed her eyes tightly. Yes, I will come tomorrow. She ended the call. The room felt colder. Elliot stared at her. Come where? He demanded. She looked at him, her face filled with fear and exhaustion. I was going to tell you tonight. He felt dread crawl through him. Tell me what? Harriet's voice shook. I went to see a doctor last week. Elliot's blood ran cold. And what did the doctor say? He asked. Harriet opened her mouth. But before she could speak, there was a sharp knock on the door. Loud. Unexpected. Both of them jumped. The knocking came again. Harder this time. Elliot and Harriet locked eyes. Neither of them was expecting anyone. And then a voice from outside called out. Mrs. Harriet Bennet? Harriet's face drained of color. Elliot slowly turned toward the door. And in that moment, he realized. The nights she cried in the bathroom were only the beginning. The knock came again. Harder. Mrs. Harriet Bennet? Elliot's heart was beating so loudly he could hear it in his ears. He looked at Harriet. She looked frozen. Are you expecting someone? He asked quietly. She shook her head. The knocking did not stop. Elliot walked slowly to the door. His hands felt cold. He opened it halfway. Two people stood outside. A man and a woman. Both dressed neatly. The woman held a file. Good evening, the man said calmly. We are from Crestview Medical Center in Victoria Island. We are looking for Mrs. Harriet Bennet. Elliot's stomach tightened. Medical center. He turned back slowly. Harriet had already walked toward the door. I am Harriet, she said softly. The woman looked at her with concern. Madam, we have been trying to reach you. Your phone was unreachable earlier. We need you to come in tomorrow morning as discussed. Elliot looked from one face to another. As discussed, he repeated. The woman glanced at Elliot briefly. We assumed your husband was aware. Harriet's fingers trembled. I was going to tell him, she whispered. The man spoke again. It is important that you do not delay. The consultant wants to review the results urgently. Results. The word echoed in Elliot's head. What results? He asked, his voice rising. Harriet stepped closer to him. Please, she said quietly. Let's go inside. The medical staff nodded politely and handed Harriet a small envelope. Tomorrow, 9 a.m., the woman said gently. They left. The door closed. The silence that followed was heavy. Elliot turned to Harriet slowly. What is going on? He asked. She held the envelope tightly. I have not been feeling well for months, she began. You never said anything. I tried, she said softly. You were always busy. The words stung. What kind of results? He pressed. She sat down slowly on the sofa. I have been having panic attacks, she said quietly. Elliot blinked. What? I feel tight in my chest. I cannot breathe sometimes. My hands shake. My heart races. I cry for no reason. His mind raced back to the balcony. The shaking hands. The stiff shoulder. The bathroom. You think this is because of work stress? He asked quickly. She looked at him. It is because I feel alone. The words landed like a heavy stone. Elliot felt shame creep into his chest. You should have told me it was this serious. Her eyes filled with tears. I did not want to disturb you. Disturb you? That sentence hit him harder than anything else. He had become someone she was afraid to disturb. Elliot sat down across from her. Harriet, are you saying you are sick? She hesitated. I do not know yet. That is why they want to see me urgently. He felt fear crawl into his bones. Urgent usually means something bad. She looked away. I have also not been sleeping well. I forget things. I feel tired all the time. His breathing became shallow. How long has this been happening? She gave a small, sad smile. About the same time you got your promotion. The room felt smaller. Elliot looked at the bathroom door. The tap. The hidden sobs. All the nights he thought it was nothing. He stood up suddenly. Why did you not tell me you were going to a doctor? Her voice broke slightly. Because every time I tried to talk, you said you were doing this for us. He had no answer. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He ignored it. For the first time in months, he ignored it. He walked toward her slowly. I am sorry, he said quietly. She looked at him with tired eyes. Sorry will not remove the fear I feel every night. He knelt in front of her. I did not know, he whispered. She closed her eyes. That is the problem. You did not notice. The words pierced him. He thought back to every late night. Every ignored question. Every meal he skipped. He thought he was building a better life. But he had not seen the life slipping away beside him. The room was silent again. Then Harriet slowly opened the envelope the medical staff had given her. She pulled out a printed sheet. Her hands shook. Elliot watched her carefully. What does it say? He asked. She did not answer immediately. Her eyes moved across the page. Her face changed. Not panic. Not relief. Something else. Fear mixed with confusion. Harriet, Elliot said, his voice barely steady. What does it say? She looked up at him slowly. It says they found something abnormal in the scan. His heart stopped. What kind of abnormal? She swallowed. They think there may be a growth. The word hung in the air. Growth. Elliot felt like the room was spinning. A growth where? He whispered. She placed a trembling hand on her chest. Near my heart. The world went silent. He stared at her. Near her heart. The same place she said hurt during panic attacks. His mind refused to accept it. No, he said quickly. It must be a mistake. They want to run more tests tomorrow, she replied. He stood up and began pacing. This cannot be happening. Harriet watched him quietly. For months, she had faced the fear alone. Now he was finally feeling a piece of it. Elliot stopped pacing and looked at her. I am coming with you tomorrow, he said firmly. She nodded slowly, but her eyes were distant. Elliot walked toward the bathroom. He pushed the door open. He looked at the mirror. He imagined her standing there alone night after night. crying silently, while he slept peacefully in the next room. He gripped the sink tightly. I should have known, he whispered to himself. Behind him, Harriet's voice came softly. There is something else. He turned around slowly. What else? She looked at him with tears in her eyes. The doctor also asked me one question before I left. His heart pounded again. What question? She took a shaky breath. He asked if I was under emotional stress at home. Elliot felt the ground disappear beneath him. And what did you tell him? He asked quietly. Harriet's tears finally fell freely. I told him yes. The word echoed in Elliot's ears. Yes. He opened his mouth to speak. But at that exact moment, Harriet suddenly pressed her hand to her chest. Her face twisted in pain. She gasped for air. Harriet! Elliot shouted. She tried to stand, but her knees gave way. She collapsed onto the floor. Harriet! He cried, rushing to her side. Her breathing was uneven. Her eyes rolled slightly. Cole, ambulance, she whispered faintly. Elliot's hands shook as he reached for his phone. The phone slipped from his grip and hit the floor. He picked it up quickly, his heart racing wildly. For the first time in his life, he realized he might lose her. And this time, there was no bathroom door to hide behind. Stay with me. Harriet, stay with me. Elliot's voice broke as he knelt beside her on the living room floor. Her breathing was uneven. Her hand was still pressed against her chest. Her eyes looked weak but open. I'm here, he said quickly. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. His fingers trembled as he dialed emergency services. Please hurry, he told them. My wife has collapsed. She cannot breathe properly. He gave the address in Lekki twice because his voice kept shaking. When the call ended, he dropped the phone beside him and lifted Harriet gently into his arms. Look at me, he whispered. Look at me. She tried to focus on his face. I didn't want it to happen like this, she said faintly. Don't talk, he said quickly. Just breathe. Her head rested against his chest. He could feel how fast her heart was beating. Too fast. The minutes before the ambulance arrived felt endless. He kept thinking about every night she had cried in the bathroom. Every time he chose his laptop instead of her voice. Every time she said, it's fine, when it was not. I am sorry, he whispered over and over again. Her fingers weakly held onto his shirt. The siren sound finally echoed from outside. Relief and fear hit him at the same time. At Crestview Medical Center in Victoria Island, everything moved quickly. Nurses wheeled Harriet into a room. Doctors spoke in calm but serious voices. Elliot stood in the hallway, feeling useless. A nurse asked him questions. How long has she had chest pain? He hesitated. I'm not sure. How long has she been under stress? He closed his eyes. Too long. The nurse gave him a quiet look and walked away. Elliot sat down in the hospital corridor. He leaned forward, his elbows on his knees, his hands covering his face. For months, Harriet had carried fear alone. Now he could feel a small piece of it, and it was already too heavy. After what felt like hours, a doctor stepped out. Dr. Whitmore. The same name that had appeared on Harriet's phone. Mr. Bennett? The doctor asked. Elliot stood up immediately. Yes. How is she? She is stable for now, Dr. Whitmore said calmly. But her heart rate was dangerously high. The growth we saw in the earlier scan may be pressing slightly against a nerve. Stress makes it worse. Elliot swallowed. Is it cancer? Dr. Whitmore paused. We cannot confirm that yet. We need more detailed tests. The word yet felt sharp. But I must be honest, the doctor continued gently. Emotional stress has clearly affected her condition. Elliot felt shame rise again. She hides her pain very well, the doctor said. Many people do. They smile. They say they are fine. But inside, they are drowning. Drowning. Elliot thought of the bathroom door. The running tap. The silent tears. How serious is it? he asked quietly. If the growth is what we suspect, she may need surgery. The hallway felt like it was closing in. Surgery. Elliot repeated. Yes, the doctor said. Soon. Elliot nodded slowly, but his mind felt frozen. Can I see her? He asked. Dr. Whitmore nodded. She is awake. But keep her calm. Harriet lay on the hospital bed, looking small under the white sheets. When Elliot walked in, her eyes moved toward him. He walked slowly to her side. He took her hand carefully. I'm here, he said again. This time, she did not pull away. She looked at him quietly. I'm sorry, he said softly. For what? She asked weakly. For not noticing. For not hearing you. For thinking everything was fine. Tears filled her eyes. I didn't want to be a burden, she whispered. You were never a burden, he said firmly. You are my wife. She looked at him for a long moment. Then why did I feel alone every night? He had no excuse. Only truth. I forgot that success means nothing if I lose you, he said. She closed her eyes slowly. I was afraid, she admitted. Of what? That I would disappear before you even realized I was gone. His chest tightened painfully. I see you now, he whispered. She gave a small, tired smile. You're finally looking. They sat in silence for a while. But peace did not last long. Dr. Whitmore returned with a file. I have just received preliminary results, he said carefully. Elliot stood up quickly. Harriet's fingers tightened around his hand. The doctor opened the file. There is indeed a mass near the heart, he said calmly. It is not large yet, but it is positioned in a delicate area. Elliot's throat went dry. What does that mean? Harriet asked quietly. It means we cannot delay, the doctor replied. Surgery is recommended within the next few days. The words hit like a heavy weight. Days. Elliot repeated. Yes, the doctor said. If it grows or shifts, it could become life-threatening. Life-threatening. Elliot looked at Harriet. Her face was pale but calm. Too calm. We will do the surgery, Elliot said firmly. Whatever it takes. Dr. Whitmore nodded. We will schedule it immediately. The doctor left the room. Silence returned. Harriet stared at the ceiling. Are you scared? Elliot asked softly. She nodded. Yes. He squeezed her hand gently. I won't leave you. She turned her head slightly toward him. You already left me once, she said quietly. The truth cut deep. He leaned closer. I am here now, and I am not moving. She studied his face carefully, as if trying to see if he meant it. And then, a nurse rushed into the room suddenly. Doctor! She called urgently from the doorway. Dr. Whitmore turned quickly. There is a complication in the imaging results. We need to review something immediately. Elliot's heart jumped. What complication? He asked. The doctor looked at him seriously. There may be more than one growth. The room went silent. Harriet's breathing slowed. Elliot felt his legs weaken. More than one? Dr. Whitmore's face was tense. We need to run additional scans tonight. Harriet looked at Elliot with wide eyes. He held her hand tightly. For the first time since they married, he truly saw fear in her eyes. And this time, he could not ignore it. The hospital room felt colder after the doctor left. More than one growth. The words kept repeating in Elliot's mind. Harriet's hand was still in his, but it felt weaker now. I don't want to die, she whispered softly. The sentence broke something inside him. You are not going to die, he said quickly. Do not even say that. But his voice was shaking. The nurses wheeled her away for more scans. Elliot stood in the hallway again, alone. This time, he did not sit. He paced. Back and forth. He thought about the first night he heard the sob. He thought about how easy it was to ignore it. How easy it was to assume everything was fine. He thought about the letter. I feel like I am disappearing, and you do not even see it. His chest tightened. He had seen numbers, targets, deadlines, but he had not seen his wife breaking slowly beside him. After what felt like hours, Dr. Whitmore returned. His face was serious but calm. "Mr. Bennett." Elliot froze. "Yes." "The second mass is smaller than we thought. It appears to be linked to the first. It is complex, but operable." Elliot blinked. "Operable?" he repeated. "Yes," the doctor said. "But the surgery will be delicate. There are risks." "What kind of risks?" Elliot asked. The doctor did not soften his words. "There is a chance of heart damage. There is a chance of complications during the procedure." Elliot's throat went dry. "But there is also a strong chance she will recover if we act quickly." Elliot closed his eyes for a moment. "When?" he asked. "Tomorrow morning." That night, Elliot did not leave the hospital. He sat beside Harriet's bed. She looked peaceful while sleeping. For the first time in months, she was not hiding her pain behind a bathroom door. Machines monitored her heartbeat softly. He watched every small movement. He leaned closer and whispered, "I am sorry I did not hear you when you were crying." Her eyes opened slowly. "I did not cry loudly," she said faintly. "You should not have had to cry at all," he replied. Tears rolled down his face. Real tears. Not hidden. "I thought providing money was enough," he said. "I thought building a future was love." She looked at him gently. "Love is presence," she whispered. "Not just provision." He nodded slowly. "I understand now." She studied his face carefully. "You cannot understand only because I am sick," she said. "You must understand because you want to see me." He held her hand tightly. "I want to see you," he said firmly. She closed her eyes again. Morning came faster than Elliot expected. The nurses prepared Harriet for surgery. Before they wheeled her away, she looked at him one last time. "If something happens," she began softly. "Nothing will happen," he interrupted quickly. She gave a weak smile. "If something happens, promise me you will listen next time." His heart broke. "I promise," he said. They rolled her away. The doors closed. And Elliot was left alone with silence. The surgery lasted hours. Long, heavy hours. Elliot did not check his phone. He did not answer calls. For once, nothing outside that hospital mattered. He prayed quietly. He remembered their wedding day. He remembered the balcony. He remembered every small moment he almost ignored. Finally, the doors opened. Dr. Whitmore stepped out. Elliot stood so fast his chair nearly fell. "Doctor." The doctor removed his gloves slowly. The surgery was successful. Elliot felt his knees almost give way. "But," the doctor continued, "the next few days are critical." Critical. The word still carried weight. "She is strong," the doctor said. "But recovery will take time. She will need emotional stability. Stress must reduce completely." Elliot nodded quickly. "I understand." "Do you?" the doctor asked calmly. Elliot paused. "Yes," he said quietly. "I do now." 2 weeks later, Harriet was back home in their Lekki apartment. The living room felt different. Quieter. Softer. Elliot had taken leave from work. He cooked simple meals. He sat with her on the balcony in the evenings. No phone in his hand. No laptop open. Just silence and presence. One night, Harriet walked slowly toward the bathroom. Elliot noticed immediately. He stood up. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. She turned and looked at him. For a moment, neither of them spoke. "I used to come in here to cry," she said softly. He nodded. "I know." She stepped closer to him instead of entering the bathroom. "I do not want to cry alone anymore." He opened his arms slowly. "You won't." She rested her head against his chest. But even in that soft moment, a question remained in the air. Elliot had changed because he almost lost her. But would he have changed if the scans had been normal? If there had been no growth? If she had continued crying quietly behind a locked door? Harriet looked up at him. "Do you think you would have listened if I was not sick?" she asked quietly. The question was simple, but heavy. Elliot did not answer immediately, because deep down, he was not sure. And that silence between them was louder than any cry behind a bathroom door. Now tell me, how many people are crying quietly in the next room, while someone they love thinks everything is fine? Thank you for listening. What is your view about this story? Let us know in the comment section. Kindly like, comment, and subscribe to our channel.